traders, or good morning if you're checking this out during the day, or good afternoon, I suppose it could be too. This is CloudChartist. I decided to do my weekly Ichimoku chart wrap-up email via video format tonight. Give it a go, see how it goes. It might take me a lot less time to do it, but it seems like it took me more time today, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, so we'll get right to it and start off with the chart of crude oil on March contract on the weekly time frame. This is a really big chart back to 2001 lows. And the reason that I put this chart up is I decided to run some fibs from the candle body of the low to the candle body of the high, and that brought me to this 23.6 fib at 47.70, which I thought was pretty interesting to find that level. So let's zoom in for a closer look. This is a zoomed in closer look of this last week's candle on CL. You notice that we have a long-legged doji. Both last week's candle and the week before candle held this 47.70 level, so I think that there's a good chance that this could be a reversal candle and that price action could be in for a bounce. We have no confirmation of that yet. Confirmation of that would be a higher high and a higher low. We do see the Chicago putting in a little upward tick here, which is natural for a candle body with a higher close than the last candle body. We don't have any signal of any real bounce signal yet, in that the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen are both still pointing downwards. Price action is quite bearish, obviously, and under the cloud, under a descending cloud. So everything is still quite bearish. We have very oversold RSI, but we've had that for quite a while. This whole downtrend has occurred, or most of this downtrend has occurred with very oversold RSI. We are getting a little tip up in the RSI on this candle. So if we do actually put in a bounce, chances are that the Tenkan-sen will level off and perhaps even become flat. Or perhaps the Kijun-sen will become flat. Anyway, the Tenkan-sen is going to offer huge resistance at 61.02. It might be at a different level when the new candle opens up, I'm not sure, and of course it will change levels as time passes. So we'll see what we have in store, but I would be careful if you're determined to short crude back to, $10 a barrel. It might not happen this week. Let's move on to our next chart. We have the dollar. This is another really big time frame picture of the dollar. I want to go back quite a ways, where we had another high that we recently taken out, because I thought it was interesting that this time I used, I don't usually do this, but this time I used the wicks to draw my fibs. I find that in FX currencies, oftentimes wicks work well because so many currency traders do use fibs to trade with, and they all mostly draw them from the wicks rather than the candle bodies like I do. So I noticed that the dollar was up here at the 127.2% fib. I just happened to notice that fib level, so I thought I would draw your attention to it. Some other interesting things about this dollar chart is obviously we're very overextended, very overbought on RSI, but yet RSI is descending, so that's a little bit, putting in lower highs as price moves higher, so that's a little bit of negative divergence there. Keep an eye on. We're quite extended over the top of the Tenkan-sen here. It would be quite healthy to get some flagging action before a higher move, and I wouldn't be surprised if we pull back to touch the Tenkan-sen at some point in the near future. Right now it's at 90.39.8, so we'll see. have a closer view of the dollar to show you. Basically, easier to see everything that I just said on the prior chart. Tenkan-sen support at 90.39.8. Below that, we have this fib level in confluence with the Kijun-sen at 87.02. And below that, things get quite sticky or bearish for the dollar, even though it's fully in bullish uptrend. There's a descending cloud, a flat cloud below, and a very thin cloud, none of which are particularly good support. So in the event that we got a really big dollar correction at this point, we could lose this area. But with a strong uptrend, that doesn't seem likely in this anytime soon. So we'll probably just chop sideways and then continue to hold the cloud if the cloud continues to climb. But that's far too far away for me to start predicting. Next chart, we have the Russell. This is a big picture of the Russell. You notice it's in basically a big flag pattern, holding the support of the cloud here until it lost support, went all the way down, tested the bottom of the cloud, bounced back into the cloud, back over the cloud, flagged for a bit, tested the cloud here, tested the Tenkan-sen here, very nice buy signal here, I think I pointed out a few weeks ago, came up, made a new high, and then got sold in the recent pullback. So last week we put in this spinning top doji, which actually looks relatively bullish to me. Could be a potential for a trend change up. We would need a higher low and a higher high to confirm that. We did close, here let me get a closer picture of the Russell for you. We did close slightly under the Tenkan-sen, which is a little bit bearish. So it's possible that bulls really need price action to get back above 1174.20, the Tenkan-sen. Otherwise, we could come back down and test the cloud again. In the future, next couple of months, going into April, we have a descending cloud, which we could get more of this kind of action, more flagging action, with this flat cloud that could attract. Also, this is not very good support here, so be very cautious if we do get into this area. April, sell in May kind of time could go through. All right, moving on. We have the NASDAQ. Lost support of the Tenkan-sen last week and closed between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. Overall, still bullish. We need it to get back over the Tenkan-sen in order for a bullish uptrend to continue. Cloud is still trending up. We could see some sideways action, or if we do sell more, we do have support at 40.16 at the Kijun-sen. Kijun-sen has been holding over time quite well. Like we got one close under the Kijun-sen here, and then uptrend resumed. So that's what we have going on for NASDAQ. We also have some tech earnings coming up that could move the NASDAQ around quite a bit. So we will see. Next we have gold. The metals put in a really bullish few days last week due to the Swiss National Bank news. Well, that's speculation. But anyway, we'll get back to the chart. The metals put in a very bullish candle last week, breaking through the Kijun-sen resistance and traveling up towards the cloud above. Tenkan-sen curling up to support price action. We have, overall though, the chart is still bearish as it's under the cloud. The Chicago span is going to run into resistance in the cloud at the Tenkan-sen and under the candles here. So it's possible that if we do go higher, we could hit the cloud and then retrace back down. We also have a cloud twist right here, so price could actually go through the cloud. really we have to wait and see, but obviously we're in a very bullish uptrend over these last two bullish candles. Can't ignore those. RSI is pretty neutral here also, so that's gold. Silver, similar to gold, also put in a very bullish candle last week, closing over the Kijun-sen here, which is key. Plenty of room between the Chikou and the candles for a price to run higher here. Plenty of room between here and the cloud for a price to run higher here. We'll see if it does. It could be that the metals retrace. Could be this is all they have in them, and we get back under the Kijun-sen and a tightening range occurs between the Kijun-sen and the Tenkan-sen, and a little sideways action for a while. That's a possible scenario. That's sort of what I'm leaning towards. I think that's sort of too much too soon for silver, but moving on. We're looking at the euro. This is a big picture of the euro back from starting in 2003 at the lows. And the highs here as well. I wanted to draw fib between these levels to see what we were working with over here, and we do have this 88% fib. I drew these upside down this time, but whatever, it's the same diff. We have this fib here at 11337, 113.37. That could potentially offer some support. It was support here previously. We did this range. Otherwise, euro is fully bearish and quite oversold. This has been oversold for a while. So kind of extreme circumstances in the Forex as of late. Moving on. Oh, actually I have a closer picture of the euro to show you. So on a blown up picture we have, we'll see that we do have this gap to fill above. So it's possible that if we do get a bounce on the euro either in this area or lower at that 113.37 area, that we could come back and perhaps fill this gap here. If we do fill this gap, then we have the Tenkan-sen to contend with ahead, above it, just above it, so that could be a sell for what I like to call the Tenkan smackdown. The setup would be perfect if we got an oversold bounce that bounced up and hit the Tenkan-sen and then sold. That is the perfect description of what I refer to as the Tenkan smackdown. I'm sure you've heard me refer to it before. Moving along, we have corn. So, corn was quite bearish and put in a bottom, and I was actually trying to buy it in this area, and I got stopped out on one of these random days and missed, this whole uptrend, basically. But I'm kind of glad I did, because it looks like as soon as this gap got filled, this gap here, we got sellers, and that was a USDA report, I believe, that caused that. I'm not entirely sure, but and so then we found resistance here at the gap. So in Ichimoku, gaps are called windows, and they offer support and resistance. So you see that it offered resistance here, and it will continue to offer resistance. Overall chart is bearish under the cloud, but we do have this bull cross caused by this upward price momentum. Now that we've got a close under the Tenkan-sen but above the Kijun-sen, the flat Kijun-sen here, we can expect price action to sort of bounce around between these two levels, go sideways until one of them breaks, until we get a close above the Tenkan-sen at 3889.75 or below the Kijun-sen at 367.63. So that's sort of roughly what we're looking at in corn. If you want to think about it as an inverse head and shoulder bottoming pattern, that's entirely possible too, but we're going to need to get back over this level and then above the cloud. Moving along, we are going to coffee next. I've seen a lot of stock traders trading coffee recently, buying ETFs that represent coffee. Last week was extremely bullish. I suggested 2 weeks ago in my newsletter that this was an excellent buy point. I actually forgot to buy it on that Monday morning and didn't want to chase. I did a little scalping in between in this uptrend, but I basically missed this move. It still looked pretty bullish, you know, when I did my email last week, because we got to close over the Tenkan Sen. But then we pretty much immediately lost the Tenkan Sen again, and I watched it each day, and each day it would sort of make a high of the day sometime in the morning and then sell pretty significantly into each close, which I thought was pretty bearish price action. So we see that it retraced about half of the bullish candle and now is tested cloud support down here and closed just slightly above the cloud. So technically it's still bullish overall. In Ichimoku terms, we have an uptrend intact because the price action was inside the other candle. We can't say the uptrend has been broken. We do have resistance still at the Tenkan Sen at 180.73, and we have support down here at the cloud. So probably we'll see price action inside here this week, but who knows? If we get above the Tenkan Sen, you know, it could go higher up towards 192.80. Or if we get, you know, inside the cloud, it could retest this 160 level. We also can make note of the Chikou span here. It was free, meaning that it had no encumbrances and it was over the Tenkan Sen and the candles, but then it reversed and closed back under the Tenkan Sen, but it is at support at the top of this candle, so just something to keep an eye on. Okay, now we're moving into some stocks. This is Apple. Pretty bearish price action really overall last week, partly, you know, because of the indexes and the rest of the market correcting. But then on Friday, Apple seemed a little bit to be underperforming other stocks. Google actually got really bid on Friday, so I was kind of wondering if maybe there were some people who were selling Apple and buying Google. We have earnings coming up, not this week, but next week, so people might be positioning ahead of earnings. I really don't know. I have a few 110 calls, so I'm not real happy that we closed under the Kijun Sen. But overall, chart is still bullish. Oh, sorry about that. Chart is still bullish in over the cloud. The only thing that's not bullish about is that it's under the Tenkan Sen and under the Kijun Sen. So we'll see what happens with Apple. CMG, the burrito has been my main risk indicator lately. Intraday, it's been obviously getting accumulated major the last few weeks. And then last week, it failed to make a new high, but it's still in an uptrend. Could be a reversal candle, could just be a little pause in the upward momentum, could pull back to 680.20 if we have more correcting in the broader markets. Overall, though, it's quite bullish. The fact that the Tenkan Sen has gone flat rather than pointing upwards suggests a potential flagging action would be appropriate. Maybe something like this. After this big bullish candle, we have this big bullish candle, maybe something like this. Okay, what do we have next? So next up we have IBM. Been very bearish. I just happened to notice that I ran some fibs from the recent swing high to recent swing low and noticed that the level that we're bouncing around at after this huge gap down is around the 38.2, negative 38.2 from the previous low. So I thought that was interesting to make note of. We have a window here caused by this big gap that could cause resistance. We did get a close below the Tenkan Sen last week, which is bearish, but we have a flat Kijun Sen ahead. So we'll see if we can get back above the Tenkan Sen. I expect that we'll be chopping around in a range here, unless we can get, like into this gap area, this window area. If we do get into that area, then I would say a test of the prior lows and also the Kijun Sen would be in order. Next up we have, last but not least, Tesla. So Tesla put in a bearish candle last week inside the cloud, so it closed inside equilibrium. So it's technically not bearish, it's technically neutral at this point on the weekly time frame. So if it does continue to hold the cloud, it can continue to go sideways, as the cloud is basically moving sideways to up at this point. If it does get a bounce and head back up, we have cloud resistance to the upside, and then we have the Tenkan Sen to contend with if higher. The Chigai span is below price action right now, which is not good, because when it moves back up, it's going to have to tangle with all of this stuff once again if it moves back up. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed my new format, and if you're interested in seeing these kind of videos intraday, I make videos for my chat room. Whenever anyone asks a question, I make a video to explain, or I make a morning crude video every morning going through crude on multiple time frames. We actively trade crude in the room all day long. We also actively trade ES, NASDAQ, TF, silver. I trade silver anyway. Bonds, we have a few bond traders in the room. And if you're interested in checking that out, if you want to learn more about Ichimoku, it's a great place to do so. And we just have a nice community of active traders in there with all, we have some really experienced traders who are coming from different areas of analysis who are interested in incorporating Ichimoku into their trading. So people way more experienced than me in the room. Former Chicago floor traders converting, from the floor to the screens. So anyway, I have a trial for my trading room going on right now, $20 for a week. You can pay that, a couple of cups of coffee, and come and hang out in the trading room and see if you like it. And if you do, then you can stay and pay the regular monthly rate, which is $149. Which, if you live trade futures such as crude, I am sure that's not a problem to understand how easily that membership fee would be paid for in our room. So anyway, thanks a lot, and I will post the link for that trial on Twitter and in my newsletter, which is where I'm going to embed this video right now. All right, thanks again for listening. Have a good night.